And then once you've totally familiar with that and an expert and you want to make one like that,
That's cool.
you go right ahead. All right? But what you'll do is you'll get better as you go through the pieces of clay. All right, taking one of Abby's prepared pieces of clay here. What's it called, by the way, what you just did?
A ball?
No, in terms of the process, do you remember what it was called? Didn't Abby tell you?
I don't think we got to that.
It's called wedging.
Wedging.
Okay, so it's got nothing to do with getting your pants caught in your backside, right? But I tell you what, if you got a D shape when you were going through the process, right, where each time you cut and whacked them and turned them and you ended up with a capital D, that means you were doing it really well. It's called de-wedging.
Oh, good.
Yeah, for that reason.
I thought I was doing it wrong.
So there we are, we've got a nice round ball of clay and we're going to, well, think of it as a baby, but don't do this to a baby, all right? We'll get into trouble. I'm going to whack this down here and stick it to the center of the wheel as close as I can. Now you notice I've got a bat on here. We actually take those bats off after each one that you make and put another one on. That way you don't have to touch your pot after it's finished and ruin it, all right? So that's the idea. We whack that down close to the center. We're not right in the center, so we might have to do a little bit of adjustment, you see? It's a bit off. So we turn the wheel so that we can see whether it's a bit off or not, and then turn the wheel by hand until the high side is away from you, and you can then carefully, don't lift it up, but slide it towards you on the wheel head. Right? Once you've done that, you've got it a roundabout in the center.
Yeah.
Now, as you do with babies when they're born, you wet the head. Right? Wet the head. There we go. And now, using our right hand, we're going to cuddle the baby's head. Right? And cuddling means that the whole of our hand are going to touch. Bones nice and straight, elbow down. All right? The other hand then goes over the top of that hand, elbow down, bones nice and straight. The reason for it is that we're going to pull that clay towards us until it gets smooth and stops wobbling like this. So we've got our hands nice and loose at the moment, but now we're going to stiffen them up into that shape, exactly that shape, and pull the clay towards us at full speed until it stops wobbling. Now it might wobble a little bit, that's okay, because babies when they're born are a bit wobbly, right? So what we've got to do is that we've got to build some memory into the clay, and in that process it'll smooth out the wrinkles, all right? That building of memory in babies is ba 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 ma ma ma. In building memory in clay, it's moving up and down, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make that into a cone and then down into a dome. So once again, just dip my fingers in there, make sure to keep the plenty of baby oil on here, okay? It's got to be nice and smooth. Now, I'm going to pull towards me, and I'm going to keep on pulling, but I'm going to move my hands up to pull it up into a cone shape.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to push away and down so that it's then in a dome shape, okay? So again, the process is pull up into a cone, and then push down into a dome. This hand helps by squeezing, so it squeezes the clay up. And if you've got your hand over the top, it's easy to squeeze up, and then it's a matter of pushing back down again. Keep your arms down and braced. That way you're telling the clay what to do, telling the baby what to do, the baby isn't telling you what to do. Pull towards you, squeeze up, and then push down. And every time you do that, you see it's getting softer and smoother.
Yeah.
It's getting nice and uniform. Up it comes, and then down it goes. Hold position, once more, make sure it's in center, and tension release. There we are. We have a nice round ball of clay ready to be made into a little human being. Little pot. To do that, we need to open it up. To open it up, this time we cover it with our left hand. Wet the hand, look on the side, thumb facing forward. This thumb, right bend back. Sounds like It's called a washerwoman's thumb. If you've got one of those, it works well. Apparently you get a thumb like that from washing a washboard. Right, so putting it horizontal next to the other thumb, pointing it at myself, I then push down with both thumbs and form a well in the top of the clay. Fill the well up with water as you do, and this time we're going to go all the way down to within about a centimetre from the top of the wheel, keeping it flat. So I'm not making a pot. What I'm doing is I'm making a donut. So I'm pushing down till I get to about a centimetre from the top of the wheel. If I go too far, you know what happens, don't you? You've got to plant a pot because you're going to have a hole at the bottom of the pot. So you're going to have only 1 centimetre, right? It doesn't matter if it's a little bit more or a little bit less, because we trim the bases of your pot later and we can adjust that. Right, so we have a donut. Now we're ready to make this donut into the first part of making all your pots, and that is a cylinder. You make a cylinder, you can then change that into anything. Alright, so but we start with the cylinder first. We get a perfect cylinder, we'll have a perfect pot. To do that, I've coined a new phrase because of COVID-19. It's called the COVID-19 virtual handshake. So put your hand out like that, guys, like as though you're going to shake someone's hand. Put the thumb of your left hand over the wrist of your right hand. Turn your left hand flat like so. Bend your fingers down. And then when you put your hand on the side of the pot, your fingers will go inside in exactly the right spot. That's the COVID-19 virtual handshake. Anyone goes to shake your hand, you go, no. Don't do that. Alright, so there we are. So I've got my finger now in the middle of my donut. I've got my hands locked together. What I'm going to do now is to form my cylinder, I'm going to slide this finger, the driving finger, because it drives across into the side of the donut and converts our donut into a tyre that needs a tube. Once we've done that, we're ready then to form this into a cylinder. How? Well, if we lock our hands in that position as we have them down here, and then lift our hands up, making the clay go through that gap, it'll straighten the inside and the outside at the same time. I notice that this thumb here sits on top. That keeps this from going like that. Alright, so it just sits there. And up we come with both hands, squeezing the clay through that gap without pushing inwards any further. Alright, till we get to the top. Now I've straightened that side out and I've straightened that side. Once I get to the top, I just go back down the bottom and do that again. Push another little groove in there and then bring both hands up together. Making sure that I don't keep pushing outwards with that finger. It's got to come up straight. Same with the hand. So both come up together like that. Thumbs sitting on top. Down the bottom again we go. Push out once more and then bring both hands up. Being careful to make sure that that outside hand does not keep travelling outwards. Right? If it keeps travelling outwards every time you push in, you're going to end up with a plate. And it won't be a very good plate. Alright, so here we go again down the bottom, push out, form a groove, and then up we come to the top once more. See how both my hands are operating together?
Yeah.
Right? Don't let that finger get any closer or further away from that hand, right? Because we want the thickness down here to be the same as the thickness up there. So down we go again, push out, up we go again, right up to the very top. Right, see, we're forming the cylinder. Right? This hand is coming up like that. The thumb is going down as it comes up. This finger is travelling from down here up there, opposite here. So they're both operating together. Hence the reason why I've got them touching one another. Right? It gets a little bit dry. All right, put some more baby oil on. It's called slip, by the way. That's slip. Right? Because it slips. Pretty sensible, isn't it? All right, so here we go, up to the top. Once more, I'm going to stop there. When those walls are around about 5-6 millimeters or so, a quarter of an inch in old terms, that's ready then to be made into a pot. make sure that when you're doing this, and this is the mistake most students make of pottery, is that they end up pushing this finger until it reaches this hand. And if it does that, they fall in love, get married, have a divorce, and the top of your pot falls off. Alright? Because that's what happens, you see, because there's nothing holding your pot together once those two hands meet. So they've always got to be separated. Okay, now we've got a cylinder, we can form it into a shape. Rule of thumb, if your cylinder is around about the same width as it is height, you have got the potential bowl. If it's narrow and tall, the potential is a vase. If it's wide and flat, the potential is a plate. The two extremes are both vase and a plate. Everything else lies between. We're going to make bowls today, and the reason for that is you can do so many things with bowls. Plate's a plate, the vase is a vase, but a bowl, soup, stir fry, nuts, cereal, you know. There's so many things that you can use a bowl for. And the beauty of this clay is that it's stoneware clay, so if you do come back for a glazing session, we can fire these pots to 1280 degrees. Your pots will be able to be used for cooking. Right. As they come back to you after the first step, they'll be this fine, they'll be terracotta. Not good for wet food. Okay for dry food, but nothing wet. Okay, so here we go. We've got a cylinder. We're going to make that into a bowl. So we're going to use the Mary had a little lamb principle. All right, wherever Mary goes, the lamb is sure to go. All right, so we've got to make sure that we tell the lamb what to do, and we don't get the lamb to tell us what to do. So the first thing we do, because I love little lambs, we form a heart. Try it out. Put your left thumbnail over your right thumbnail. Turn your hand upside down so you've got an upside down heart. Right? Now if you tip that down, like that, put your left hand inside and your right hand outside, right? You're in a position now to move this pot in or out. Because wherever you go, the lamb is going to go. So here we are, we're down the bottom, Mary's in the middle of the paddock with the lamb, right? She's going to head out towards the fence, and she goes. So she pushes out, the outside finger's doing nothing at all except sitting there. When she gets to the fence, she goes for a walk up alongside the fence. Until she gets to the top of the paddock, she stops, gently opens up her fingers and looks around, and there's the lamb's grown up into a fully grown sheep. However, our little sheep went for a walk through a mud puddle on the way out to the fence. We have to clean that mud off, that slip we were talking about. The reason for that is we don't clean the slip off the outside of our pot. In the drying process, the slip, being much wetter, will shrink more than the body of the pot, will squeeze the pot, cause it to crack. So we remove that slip from the outside. First of all, we remove it from the edge of the bat because we don't want our bat to stick to the table when we take it off. We then clean the top of here right up against the pot, right? So we clean that up there. Notice when I say clean, I don't mean like eating off a plate clean. It just means cleaning off the excess mud. I want you to actually leave this like this because you're going to write your name in that with your finger, so that I can read your name and know that this pot belongs to you. I also trim the base and write your name on the base of the pot. And if you write your name neatly there, it doesn't matter how strangely it's spelled. If you do it neatly enough, I'll make sure that's what goes on the bottom of your pot. Alright, then I'll up along the side very gently, right, to remove the excess slip. Notice I'm letting the wheel do the work, I'm just moving the sponge laterally. Soak up any swimming pools inside here. Right? Push down quite firmly, that's okay. Can't go anywhere, there's a wheel underneath it, not going to change it. But then when I've done that, I move up very gently up alongside of the pot. No white marks, see? The only white marks are even all the way around horizontally. And then, because we've got some sharp edges on the lip, we curl over the sharp edges. Notice my right arm is braced. I want you to get used to the idea of keeping your right arm braced the whole time. The reason for that is the clay can't tell you what to do. because you can hold position. But if your hands are floating, clay will start telling you what to do. But make sure you're braced. Sometimes you need to be braced with both hands, but generally speaking, it's the right hand. Now I can stop the wheel. Notice that at no time did I stop the wheel, I'll go the way. Fast and then slow. Fast for centering and then very slow for the making of our pot. And the reason for that is you don't want centrifugal force acting on your clay, because if it's flying around at 1,000,000 miles an hour, away goes your pot. Okay? Well, there you are, guys. The next step is, Maddie, are you, Abby, are you there? She's not there. I'll tell you what, what's your name again? Pin. Can I have one of those cutters from off the wall there? You see? Not the metal one. Yeah, keep going across. One more. That's it. That one there. Beautiful. These ones, what we do is we don't actually take the pot off the wheel. We do a preliminary cut by holding on to our cutter like so, and wrapping it around our fingers. Right? We can then put our thumbs on the top of the cutter. So I can see what I'm doing. I slide it across 2 railway lines and push it through smoothly so it's cut. Right? I don't remove the pot, but I write my name on it, and I want you to write your first and your last name. All right, Pin, I know. I'm not going to come across too many pins, right? But it's important that you do put both on there because, as I said, I'm transferring your name to the base of the pot. Me, I can cheat. I just put WP. You just turn it around with your hand and write neatly around the side like so. Do it after you cut it off, of course, or you wipe it off. Mm-hmm. So once that's done, Abby will come along and she will, and Valerie, when she turns up, I don't know where to. I think they're up setting up a glazing class this afternoon. Mm-hmm. So, and they'll put the chisel underneath here and lift up your pot, and then put it on the table, or put it on this table out of the way. Being very gentle not to bump it, because it'll flop like a sponge cake. Right, and then put another bat on, making sure it's the base. If you do end up doing your own, putting your bases on, which would be very nice of you if you did, just look for the bush that's at the bottom, all right? It's not at the top. Right. Oh, don't do what I just did then. Don't wet it. Right, keep it dry. Because when you put your next piece of clay on, your hands need to be dry, and so does the bat, so that the clay will stick. If it's wet, it'll slip off. Okay, so what I usually do before I start is I get my towel and get rid of all the mud. Don't worry about muddying our towels. That's what they're designed for. Muddy towels are good. Alright, we've got a special washing machine for that purpose. Here we are, find the hole, push down, test. It's not going up and down like a yo-yo. That's number one. Alright. Okay, so go to your wheels and I'll